Am I deaf or am I hard of hearing? Why does it matter to you? I think my biggest question for everybody watching is, why does it matter to you? Why do you ask this question? Is there a difference to you? Why are you asking? When people ask, they have different ideas of what deaf is and what hard of hearing is. And so does the internet. Most of the definitions that I come across are written by hearing people, those who are neither deaf or hard of hearing. So what does it mean to be deaf? So deaf is commonly described by hearing people as somebody who has a partial or total loss of hearing. To be deaf, you do have to have a degree of hearing loss. Ignore the fact that the sun's gone away. So what is hard of hearing? Hard of hearing gets thrown around a lot as a kind of functioning label. Often it's used as like not quite deaf but not hearing, which I disagree with. The internet's and hearing people's definition of hard of hearing is somebody who has hearing loss, but to a degree where auditory devices can be helpful. Which I've come across a lot and I don't necessarily agree with, because hearing devices are not always helpful regardless of your level of hearing loss. Me wearing hearing aids doesn't make me hard of hearing over deaf. My hearing aids don't actually affect the underlying hearing loss. Not all deaf people wear hearing aids, not all hard of hearing people wear hearing aids. It is not a functioning label. Hearing aids are not the only audiological device. Cochlear implants are also a hearing device or an audiological device, and I don't really understand that much about cochlear implants, but I do know that you can be profoundly deaf and have cochlear implants be helpful to you, and that doesn't make you hard of hearing. Nothing makes you hard of hearing and nothing makes you deaf. But if we look at both of those definitions, both as a deaf person being somebody that has any degree of hearing loss, and hard of hearing being a person who has hearing loss that may be helped by audiological devices, I'm both. But I only use deaf, I don't use hard of hearing. I go by deaf for a number of reasons, most of them being access. It is more accessible to me to call myself deaf than it is to call myself hard of hearing, because I am deaf. They're not functioning labels. There is no, you are deaf if, you are hard of hearing if. There's none of that. That actually does not exist in deaf circles. So why does it matter to me? Again, access and preference. It is just the label that I've chosen, and also adding another layer of complexity onto it, being deaf-blind, also factors into that, but I was deaf-blind after I called myself deaf. The argument that I've heard the most on why I shouldn't call myself deaf and I should instead use hard of hearing is because it takes away from the real experience of deafness. And that always comes from people who are not deaf and who have a fundamental misunderstanding of what deafness actually is. Me using a label doesn't take away from anybody else's experience. Everybody's experience of deafness is unique, no matter what your level of hearing loss is, or even if you use hearing loss for yourself, it is a unique experience. There is not a finite amount of a label. Anyone can use it if you have any degree of hearing loss. You don't have to tick off boxes to be, okay, yes, now I am deaf. It does not work like that. Nor are they functioning labels. Hard of hearing is not specifically for people with mild or moderate or anything less than profound hearing loss, and deaf isn't just for anyone with profound or more hearing loss. It just isn't like that. It's not helpful, because two people with mild hearing losses will be affected completely differently. Some people with mild hearing loss will benefit from hearing aids, other people will not. It's so unique. it doesn't work as a functional label. It just doesn't, because it doesn't tell you anything about how that person is affected, their actual hearing loss, what helps, what doesn't. They are not reserved for the people most affected or the worst of the worst. I said this before in my What is Deaf Blindness video, which I am going to link to up here. Labels are for everybody. If it fits, it fits. And it's up to the individual, it's personal preference. It's not down to anybody else, least of all people who are not affected by hearing loss. Even before I was diagnosed, I just thought everybody struggled, and it turns out, no they don't. And it has always had an effect on me. And that effect doesn't change when I call myself deaf or if I call myself hard of hearing. But people's behaviour definitely does. People are more likely to repeat themselves when I say, "Hi, I'm deaf." They are more likely to write things down when I give them the piece of paper to write things down on. They are more likely to ask if I need any access requirements like an interpreter. They are more likely to ask if there's anything I can do. It's more likely to just look and face me. They are more likely to wear an accessible face mask. All of these things compared to hard of hearing, which people just see as it's not a problem because you're not deaf. And that's the problem with gatekeeping deafness, is you're actually just withholding access and withholding conversation from people who are deaf and people who have hearing loss. The only thing you need to be deaf is some degree of hearing loss, and align yourself with the word deaf. And a follow-on question that I often get from this question when I say, no, I'm not hard of hearing, I'm deaf, or when I correct people, is, does it bother you when people call you hard of hearing? And like, no, but are you calling me hard of hearing because you don't perceive me to be deaf? Especially after I have said, hello, I'm deaf, and then you turn around and say, oh, this is Max and they're hard of hearing. Don't do that. That's bad. That does bother me. Hard of hearing isn't an insult to me. Hard of hearing doesn't mean not deaf enough to me. Hard of hearing just is not the term I prefer. And to be honest, hard of hearing is harder to hear than deaf. I just want to put that out there, especially if there is any sort of background noise, any sort of mask. Hard of hearing, I'm not going to hear that. Deaf is just more accessible to me as a deaf person to both say, identify as, and to hear. So if you're calling me hard of hearing after I've said that I'm deaf because you think you know deafness better than me, a deaf person, then yeah, that bothers me. Otherwise, no, but I will still correct you. Think of it like me saying, hello, I'm queer, and you say, hi, this is Max, they are gay. And while it's technically correct, I prefer queer. There's nothing wrong with gay, queer is just more accurate. So happy Deaf Awareness Month. I hope this has helped answer some questions about the am I deaf or hard of hearing question or debate, and perhaps you would consider not asking. If you are asking this question because you want to know how to refer to somebody, great, ask the question. If you are asking in any way to understand their actual deafness, perhaps reconsider the question, because hard of hearing versus deaf will not actually tell you that many things apart from personal preference. So, don't forget to like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts down below, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a new video. Videos go up every Saturday at 6 PM UK time with at least one bonus video every single month.